How many of you have ever seen one of these signs before? My name is Monica, and I started seeing these signs in the rural farming community of Groveland, New York around the summer of 2010. They started to decorate my neighbors' lawns like political signs during an election year. Just like you, whenever I see a sign often enough, I start to ask questions. It's a classic advertising technique. Who doesn't recognize the McDonald's golden arches or the blue Ford Oval sign? In this case, the question was, what the frack are these signs about? My initial research led me to discover it's a serious issue, and it's not about building tougher trucks or selling French fries. I was compelled to join New Yorkers Against Fracking, or NYAF, and petition Governor Cuomo to ban fracking in New York State and along the Marcellus Shale Formation region. Fracking is a hazardous process, and it creates contaminated groundwater. It degrades forests. It poses considerable amounts of health risks, and it generates toxic waste. Energy companies want to take the land away from the farmers and use it for their wealth, the same way that Goliath and the Philistine armies wanted to take away the land from David and the Israelites. The energy companies don't care about tomorrow's consequences. They only care about today's wealth. And if the choice is today's wealth or tomorrow's health, I say, no fracking way. What is fracking? And how is it done? I could give you the scientific definition, but it's so full of technical terms and incomprehensible words, your eyes would glaze over. So let me simplify it. The official title is hydraulic fracture drilling. In New York State, it's also known as slick water fracturing or just fracking. NYAF calls it the future of unusable farmland with contaminated groundwater. Energy companies say it's a process which extracts a much-needed natural resource from the ground. In layman's terms, imagine a huge fire hose filled with intentionally chemically treated water and sand attached to a drill, propelling its way through the ground both vertically and horizontally, breaking apart the shale bed, releasing methane pockets of gas to raise above the surface and be capped and delivered through a pipeline. It sounds simple and it sounds safe, but it is not. Now let's face it, environmentalists can be just as slanted in their presentation of information as an energy corporation, and I wanted to get unbiased information. I went on to the opposing side's website, Exxon Corporation, and viewed a video called Perspectives, which is a very useful visual tool which describes the drilling process from the paperwork to the actual capping of the well. I was informed and pleasantly surprised by a little data fact that the depth to which they drill is equivalent to 8 Empire State Buildings piled one on top of each other. My concern is that everything was carefully worded, including a phrase that said, fracking fluids comprise predominantly of water and sand. What they failed to mention is that water includes 250 toxic chemicals, and the sand includes silica. Energy companies are trying to flex their muscles and use their power in the courts, the way that Goliath flexed his muscles and used his strength and his size to intimidate David. But today's agriculturists are armed with more than a slingshot. We're using laws to blindside those energy companies. Who are the concerned parties other than the energy companies and the farmers? There's the general public, which obviously includes the farmers. And they are concerned because of the health risks. There are 10 toxic chemicals included in fracking fluids that are on the 2005 Safe Drinking Water Act, 6 of which cause cancer. On the Business Insider Report website, there is a sign that's actually posted at an actual fracking site in a town, and it reads, "This water is safe to drink. If you are concerned with contamination, expose the water to flame." What? I'm concerned my water is going to give me cancer, so I should light it on fire? The house will blow up. Sure, I'll avoid chemotherapy. Wonderful alternative. The environmentalists are concerned because of all of the removal of all of the trees to actually build a rig. Obviously, our wildlife is becoming homeless. It is relocating them, and the groundwater contamination also poisons the wildlife. Farmers are concerned with groundwater contamination. Another fracking fluid, formaldehyde. Do you remember in high school science having to dissect the fetal pig? The fluid that it was floated in to keep it from rotting? That's formaldehyde. I want to be well preserved, but not by drinking contaminated water. Farmers are also concerned about noise pollution. The areas targeted in New York State for fracking are predominantly dairy farmers. Anyone who knows anything about cows knows they are skittish. Truckers bring in the drilling equipment. They build the rig. The drilling, this is all noisy. And the energy companies don't care when they drill. The cows freak out. They stop producing milk. Got milk? No, but I have fracking. Energy companies claim this is a time-tested, proven technology. Time-tested, yes. The process has been in place for 60 years. It started with oil drilling. Proven? Yes. Proven to fail. Case in point, the BP disaster in the Gulf. They're just now putting into place new safety precautions. They're just now fixing the leakage caused because of the fracking drilling in the Gulf. It's too late. Energy companies don't make plans for future disasters. Energy companies claim that the steel and the concrete that encloses the water they use to frack with is safe, that it will not cause any leakages. Two more toxic chemicals included in the fracking fluids. Diesel fluid, hydrochloric fluoride, caustic, corrosive. You're going to tell me it's so diluted that it won't eat through the steel after so many years? A resident in Sublet, Wyoming would completely disagree with you. His house on a pipeline blew up after he went to do his breakfast dishes, and the pilot light in his hot water heater exposed a pocket of methane gas and ignited it. Kaboom! The courts, they're the neutral parties in this whole controversy. They're hearing an unprecedented amount of cases banning fracking by the energy companies. And how are we doing it? We're not doing it according to the Safe Drinking Water Act of 2005. President Bush exempted natural gas companies from that act. They don't have to report their proprietary chemicals. Proprietary, like it's the KFC original recipe. No, we're using zoning laws. That's our slingshot. Fracking produces toxic waste, and you have to dispose of the toxic waste properly. You're not going to dispose toxic waste in my county. Therefore, you're not going to frack in my county. You're not going to frack with my water. David blindsided Goliath with a slingshot and brought him to his knees, and the Israelites defeated the Philistine army and retained the land. Farmers, residents of New York, are all standing up and saying, you are not going to contaminate my drinking water. You are not going to degrade my forest. You are not going to produce toxic waste, and you are not going to give cancer to my children. Go on to safewatermovement.org and get informed. Go on to Google, look up on any anti-fracking site. Hold up that slingshot and say, no fracking way.